Hello! Welcome back to How Fred Does It. We've got a couple of new toys we're going to build a bench for today. So I've got a new Evolution tractor style table saw, and I've got my dad's 12-inch miter saw. So we're going to just put together a fairly simple, quick bench. I've watched probably 100 videos out there on these mobile all-in-one workstations, and there's so many options. I'm just not really sure exactly what I want or need right now, so I am going to start super simple, but I want to be able to use the tools a little bit before I decide on an initial final workbench design. So come along and we'll get this bench knocked out here today. Alrighty, so I'm just getting things set up and trying to set myself up a little stop block. One thing I did learn fiddling with this, with the C-clamp that way and try and move it around, is when I build the final bench, once I know what I want with everything, I definitely need some T-track and a real live stop block and measurement tape and stuff on the bench. That was just a pain in the backside. And yeah, it's a little low, but really all I needed to do was make sure that all my boards were the same, so it worked out okay. It was just really fiddly and not a lot of fun. I'm using some 12-foot 2x4s that I took out of my shed. I had a loft built in there that was absolutely useless, and so I pulled down some of the lumber, and I learned that you definitely need to spend some money on lumber when you are going to build something like this that you're wanting to do good work on. This will get me by and help me figure out what it is I want to do, how I'm going to use the tools. I haven't done woodworking in a lot of years, so I didn't want to spend a ton of money and build something that it doesn't fit the way I'm going to do projects. So there's a ton of awesome ideas out there on the internet, and you're going to need to put a little money into the project to get a bench that really works well for you. This is a piece of 3/4 inch, 8-foot plywood, about 37 inches wide. It's going to be the tabletop, but the makeshift table bench I'm using is too narrow, so I had to use the tabletop to start building the frame. And some of these 2x4s are not super straight. They've got a little crown in them. And so obviously on a workbench like this, you want a nice flat top. But again, for what I'm doing, it's going to work till I figure out, what I actually want. And it was maybe 1/8 of an inch crown. It wasn't huge. So by the time I get it down and get all the frame built together and get some storage or shelves or something built underneath, I should be able to straighten most of that up enough for, an outfeed table and to hold my miter saw and to hold a embedded router. Learning a lot about design. I just put simple 2x4 legs on this, and there is no real lateral strength as I'm building, and I kind of expected that. Figured I was going to have to put some kind of additional 45 bracing or something, which you'll see me add later. Just mounting all this, screwing it all together. This is going to be the bottom. So we'll, just kind of cruising along here. Got to work on some of the video work and get in a little closer and do some audio explaining what I'm doing while I'm doing it instead of trying to voice over here like I'm doing now. This is it's not great. As you see, I got a little bit of warble in that second frame, but obviously as you get it all squared up and screwed down, it pulls out. But kind of made me think for parts of this project, it's like, am I going to get this to straighten out and firm up and be sturdy? But But yeah, it pulled together real good, and it's pretty darn square, and it's pretty sturdy, especially once I got that piece of plywood on top and screwed down. That really firmed it up. I'm putting some casters on here, so yeah, we'll flip it over. And if you notice my table collapsed there, I was trying to move my temporary bench, and I've got some old 20-year-old Harbor Freight, fold up plastic sawhorses, and one of them gave out and said, "No more, we ain't doing this anymore." So it's a good thing I'm building myself a workbench, because I don't have a second sawhorse anymore to hold up my makeshift workbench. So we'll get those recycled or whatever. Probably have to go in the garbage. I don't know that they can be recycled, but yep, getting the table all screwed down, and yep, a lot more firm there. And there's the saw. Brought the saw out. First time it's seeing the bench. We're going to put a kind of a cantilever shelf on the side for it to mount to. I'll have a full 8 foot bench to work on. Was probably a little bit overkill. I could probably go down to 6 foot, but again, like I say, I want to see what everything laid out in the table, how that actually works out. Do I want one table with everything in it? Do I want 2 or 3 tables that can be connected together in different configurations depending upon what I'm doing? I guess I won't be able to really answer that until after I, would build something like that and try it. But I mean, I think I want a single table that moves together, and I'm getting the bottom brace for the top of that cantilever shelf all leveled up, and had to make sure that my level on the brace actually was matching the level of the table, and they were both quite close. My garage floor isn't perfect, so it was all quite close to being pretty much level. And so I'm just going to put a couple screws in here just to kind of hold this. I've got some 45s cut on one end. I'm putting a brace across the bottom so that I can put the bottom of those 45s on and hold them in place. And then I'm just leading them up in the corner for now. Once I get it all screwed in and square and level, then I'll just flush cut the corner of the 2x4 that sticks up a little bit. Probably could have measured it, and had I been building something that was long-term, a forever bench, I definitely would have calculated that out and made it a nice 45 on both sides. But for what I'm doing here, just to figure out what I want and get a bench going and get my projects going, this is going to work just fine. So getting these all level and laid out, and the other thing I learned, I've been using C-clamps. I definitely need to get some of the squeeze clamps. Trying to hold things and get a C-clamp in is it's doable, but it takes time and it's a pain in the backside, and those squeeze clamps are not that expensive. So I'm going to be investing in some squeeze clamps here real quick and so looks like the base is pretty much done here. I'm going to use my flesh cut saw, which I just got. I haven't had one of those in years, so got a new one, and it's really nice. I had a nice big 1-inch piece of plywood I was going to use for the base of the table saw, and after I got to thinking about it, I was like, that's crazy. I don't need a 1-inch piece of plywood to sit under this table saw for right now. I can use that for it's cabinet grade, really nice plywood. I can use that for something nice. So I grabbed a couple of other thinner pieces, and they'll have a gap in the bottom of the saw, but hey, it'll be easier to sweep the sawdust out, blow the sawdust out the bottom of the table anyway. So, and it doesn't fit. What in the world did I do? Why doesn't it fit? I measured this 14 times. Yeah, I don't need the outfeed extension on. There we go. That fits like $1,000,000. So I measured it without the outfeed table, and everything looked good. Then when I set it on there, I had the outfeed table on it. So, but I noticed that the table was it had some flex in it. So I went back and cut some triangular pieces of 1/2-inch plywood and added those to these corners here on the end where the saw fits on the table, and that stiffened it way up. So again, if you're building this for long term, I would probably have been doing double 2x4s staggered, so that you've got a joint there where it fits in tight over the top of one 2x4 on top and bottom, and have a whole lot more secure joint there. Probably would have had 6. Oh, yep, cutting my first sheet of plywood with the saw, and I got it jammed. I'm like, what in the world? How in the world did I do that? So what I did was I set the table saw so it was just above the height of the plywood, but I wasn't holding the plywood perfectly flat. I was focusing on keeping it straight to the fence, and it didn't cut all the way through, and then it got jammed. So once I got that cleaned out, then I was able to cut that piece of wood. The other thing you notice, the saw is offset to the left. When the table is done, I will have a flip up piece of plywood on that far side for offcuts. Yep, first cut, the saw cut great. It seemed to cut fairly clean, and so I've got the bottom done, and I'm cutting the corners out for the 2x4 posts, so it'll mount under there, and getting the bottom in. I had to move my saw, but bottom fit in fairly nice. I cut it a little bit narrow, but it's fine. And so after all that, I had to take a little nap. So we're going to call it a day here, and we'll have another part or 2 or 3 adding the drop down for the miter saw and embedding a router in the table, as well as setting up some basic storage underneath first. But yeah, come on back, see how the bench progresses. And thanks for coming out. That's how Fred does it. Thanks for coming out and working together today. If y'all like this video, check out these videos and other projects. Leave me a comment. Check out my other links in the description, or subscribe for future videos from How Fred Does It. That's how we did it. Thanks all. Take care.